straight into the roof of the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle. So a good performance.
Hi, you're watching Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. On the show today, the T20 World Cup bandwagon has moved across to the West Indies. What can we expect from this? I'll give you a lowdown on the pitches, the crowd, the ticketing for the venues coming up. Will this phase save ICC some of the blushes from a mixed bag that the USA leg turned out to be? Indian football, meanwhile, at crossroads. The under-fire coach Igor Stimac has been sacked. What did Stimac do to get there, and what is next for Indian football, with captain Sunil Chhetri as well retired? And speaking of man under fire, Kylian Mbappe continues to be embroiled in controversies. A broken nose now has followed broken promises. How is he coping with balancing his relationships on the field across the different powerhouses? He also gets in the line of fire for a political comment he ends up making to appease a miffed president of France, Emmanuel Macron. All of this lined up on the show, but first, the headlines on Sports 360. Starting with cricket and the T20 World Cup, New Zealand's Lockie Ferguson bowled the best spell in T20 history. Ferguson picked up 3 wickets without giving away a single run in 4 overs. This during New Zealand's consolatory 7-wicket win over Papua New Guinea in their last game at the T20 World Cup. Estonia batter Sahil Chauhan overtook Chris Gayle by scoring the fastest 100 in T20 cricket ever as Estonia beat Cyprus by 6 wickets. Chauhan scored his ton in just 27 deliveries and finished with 144 of 41 balls. He surpassed Chris Gayle, who scored a ton of 30 deliveries for IPL's Bengaluru franchise. Chauhan also scored 18 sixes, the most in a T20 international innings. Over in tennis, Australian Open champion Aryna Sabalenka and 2-time Wimbledon finalist Ons Jabeur have opted out of the Paris Olympics. Wimbledon starts on the 1st of July, while the tennis at the Games begin on the 27th of the same month. Sabalenka said she would prefer to take a break right after instead. Milos Raonic set a new record for an ATP match. Raonic smashed 47 aces during his 6-7, 6-3, 7-6 victory over Cameron Norrie during the Queen's Club Championships in London. The previous record was held by Ivo Karlovic, who smashed 45 aces at Hall in 2015. And rounding up with Olympics, news from the Olympics. Leading athletes at the Paris Olympics are worried about the intense heat forecast. The Tokyo Olympics, with temperatures above 34 degrees Celsius, have been the hottest till date, but Paris could go a step further. Many athletes feel Paris Olympics could take a toll on all the athletes. The action shifts to the West Indies for the Super 8s. This is the most critical phase in the tournament, the stage that decides the top 4. The USA leg is officially over and it's time for cricket and the calypso. There's something about cricket in these parts, it's a vibe. So will it then save ICC the blushes that the USA leg caused? Because let's be honest, cricket in America was a mixed bag at best. Agony over the pitches, low-scoring matches, though there were some thrillers. The pricey tickets, the rained-out matches, it was far from ideal. The ICC tried to diffuse all of it with the glitz and glamour of New York. It didn't work. So now there is hope of West Indies turning it around. So what can we expect here in the Super 8s? Let's look at the venues first. There are 4 stadiums that will host the Super 8 matches. First up is Antigua and Barbuda. The stadium is Sir Vivian Richards Stadium and it's in North Sound. The seating capacity of this one is 10,000. I'll say still bigger than one of the venues in USA. Next up is Barbados. Matches will be held at the Kensington Oval in Bridgetown. Seating capacity here is a shade higher at 11,000. Then, of course, is St. Lucia. The stadium is named after the man who's currently coaching the West Indian cricket team, Darren Sammy Cricket Ground, and it seats about 15,000. And the last one is St. Vincent and Grenadines, the Arnos Vale ground, which has a seating capacity of 18,000. Now, they are all not massive stadiums, but here's the thing, the energy and the atmosphere of the West Indies will more than make up for it. because the weather is going to be pleasant through the rest of this month. The temperatures will vary between 26 and 31 degrees Celsius. One group game between England and Scotland had been called off, but that should not occur here on. Now we come to the ticket pricing. It differs for each stadium, essentially every city. Let's look at the cheapest tickets overall. First up, of course, is St. Lucia. Now, the tickets here start at $22 US, that's right, and go up to $100 US for a particular stand. Nowhere near the USA ticket prices for most matches. The teams playing at the venue first are West Indies and England. India plays a match against Australia here, but that's later, and I'm wondering if there will be changes to the rates then. Next up is Antigua, of course. Again, here, tickets are starting from $12 US right up to $475 US. It's steep, and that's for the Club VIP box. Now, for the India versus Bangladesh match set to take place here, there's been a rejig of the ticket pricing. It starts at $85 US and goes right up to $625 US. Yes, that's a marked difference, but that's the thing. The Club VVIP still comes lesser than one of the lowest priced tickets for the India versus USA game that took place in America. So a win there. And I'll show you a quick comparison to get an idea of what I'm getting at. That's the difference between India versus Bangladesh and India versus USA. The lowest there is $85, whereas the lowest price ticket was $200. And the highest there was $7,500 US compared to $625 at West Indies. The host country and the spending power taken into account here, but we are talking of cricket fans. They are mostly the same no matter where the cricket goes. Moving over to Barbados, Kensington Oval, tickets here start reasonably at $45 US and of course then go up to $625 US for the VVIP experience. And I'll round it up with the biggest stadium, the one at St. Vincent. The starting price here is at $25 US and again, of course, goes right through. You have one at 45, 80, and then of course ends at $625 US. The highest price tickets across all stadiums in the West Indies, still way below some of the lowest price tickets for the India matches in New York in particular. So will this leg rescue the faux pas in hindsight that the US face has been? The fact that West Indies has qualified for the Super 8s and in thumping fashion ought to be enough for the island nation to come out and create the best possible setting for the second stage of the tournament. West Indies has a cricket culture that transcends any other. The laid-back atmosphere, letting your hair down, cricketers mingling with the fans here. There is no being mobbed culture here at all. And maybe this is the boost the World Cup was looking for. Cricket in the West Indies, with West Indies looking like one of the top contenders for the title, weather perfect, and a crowd that loves its cricket. This just sounds perfect. And especially a crowd that can tells the difference between a googly and a leg spin delivery. And I'm particularly giving this reference because we're moving on to pitches and conditions that are different from what we witnessed during the group stages in the US. It's the kind of track that has something in it for all, bowlers, pace and spin, and batters. You need to apply yourselves and you can still get the big scores. The highest total in the group stage was West Indies just a while earlier today when they beat Afghanistan. They made 218 in St. Lucia. So expect feisty batting, some inspiring bowling, and yes, a crowd that knows how to come to the party. The one thing still remains is that time difference, even though India matches will continue to happen in the morning so that it's an evening broadcast for the subcontinent. I guess you cannot win it all, but it feels like a rescue act with ICC on a mission to do a U-turn from the way the World Cup started. There is one dish in France that seems to be cooking for the past 4 months. It's the Kylian Mbappe special. Dash of football, Euros, Olympics, political tussles, broken nose and broken promises too. The controversies around Mbappe just refuse to die down. And he's doing his best to try and navigate these waters to come out unscathed. Well, at least emotionally unscathed, because this is what happened during France's 1-0 victory over Austria last night. You can see those pictures. The French captain suffered a nasty blow and broke his nose. the result of Mbappe's collision with Austria defender Kevin Danso. Mbappe was in pain, obviously, and was replaced by Olivier Giroud. It is reported that Mbappe might miss France's next game against Netherlands. That's on the 22nd of June. The good part, though, is that he's taken it on the chin. His tweet about a nose mask coming into fashion, playing down how bloody it all looked, and fans loved it, jumping in on this to give us some more witty and funny responses. It's good that a broken nose has been dealt with rather wittily, especially since that's not the only thing Mbappe has broken over the last 48 hours. Before the game against Austria, Mbappe broke the news of breaking his promise to France. Listen in.
For the Olympic Games, my club's position was very clear. So from that moment on, I think I knew I won't be taking part in the Games. I'm going to wish this French team all the best. I'm going to watch every game as a supporter. It will be different. I'm a player and I'll be spectator. I hope they'll win the gold medal.
Je pense que je vais souhaiter le meilleur.
Talk about dropping a bomb on home turf. Paris Olympics without Kylian Mbappe is like pizza without cheese. It just doesn't feel right. Paris is the host and Mbappe is the party starter. So obviously this ought to have some repercussions, especially since Mbappe himself expressed his desire to play at the Olympics. And President Emmanuel Macron was looking forward to having Mbappe. So Madrid has its way and Mbappe will stay with the club's demands. Since the Olympics aren't part of FIFA's calendar, Real Madrid aren't obliged to send Mbappe or any of its other players on national duty. And they've been clear on this mandate since day one, that they won't be sending any of their players to the Olympics. Even President Macron's meeting with Real Madrid President Florentino Perez didn't help matter either. If not Macron, given the stature of Mbappe, many believed he could have pushed Madrid to send him for the mega event instead, because Madrid is the same club that waited for Mbappe for 2 years before signing him on. If Mbappe had pushed Madrid, they might have listened to him. But Mbappe decided to stick to the original plan and pick club over country. Maybe he didn't want to upset his club owner, but as things stand now, Mbappe's Olympic dream is on hold. So this is how I see it. He's got one base covered. Real Madrid are happy with him. He's valued their decision and kept his end of the deal up. But what about President Macron and France? Mbappe's decision is sure to upset him. So how does Mbappe tackle that? By jumping in to say this.
I think we are a generation that can make the difference. We see today that the extremists are in the gate of power. We have the opportunity to choose the future of our country. That's why I call upon the youth to go out and vote, to really be aware of the importance of this situation. I hope to use my voice as best as I can, because you need to be able to identify with your country.
On a besoin de s'identifier à nos valeurs.
To make up for leaving Macron in the lurch, Mbappe is now urging citizens of France not to vote for far-right politicians. Talk about kicking the ball out of the stadium and into the parliament. Maybe that's Mbappe's way to smooth things over with Macron. Now, I understand Mbappe is trying to balance all parties involved here, but trying to keep all parties happy is, sure, idealistic and impossible to achieve. Take his political comment, for instance. While the left wing and other sportspersons welcomed Mbappe's statement, it didn't amuse the National Rally, the right-wing political party.
I don't expect people who are out of touch with reality to lecture the French. When you wear the French team's shirt, you show restraint.
Sebastian Chenou there, not only criticizing his speech, but also accusing Mbappe of not being patriotic enough, taking a dig at his decision not to play at the Olympics. It was not just him. Other MPs have criticized Mbappe for his comments. Now, while a sports star can exercise his right and use his power to address the country, express his views, Mbappe had to expect the backlash. But being fearless and yet trying to walk the tightrope is something Mbappe is now getting very used to. And yes, it can get a bit too much for a 25-year-old. Indian football has been on a roller coaster ride these last few years. It achieved great heights and the lowest of lows too. One man has seen it all. That's Indian head coach, or should I say former Indian head coach Igor Stimac. The Croat was appointed in 2019 and stayed in that position for 5 years, even when it seemed like the rope was wearing thin. Because after a high came a setback like no other, and somehow Stimac seemed to ride out the storm. But AIFF, the Indian Football Association, has had enough. Their patience finally wore off. Late last night came in the press release by the association that Stimac had been shown the door. Now, of course, this is not shocking. It felt like a while coming, and Stimac has left quite the trail of disaster behind him. The eloquent coach was many things during his tenure. He made lofty promises.
Obvious first and primary goal is qualifying for the third round of the World Cup qualifiers.
He always backed his own skills as a mentor and that of his relationship with some of the key players.
You know, I'm trying to be the best father they can have, the best friend they can get while they are here and even when we are not together.
Was always confident even when the team floundered. There was nothing that would shake his confidence.
I think we can qualify. And I told you before as well, we are going to be a different team after a long camp.
Confident, defiant and so sure in his ways. He even said he would step down if India failed to make it to the third round of qualification. Now, Stimac did talk up a storm and managed to ride out a period that many in football would not have lasted. Germany, for instance, after their loss in the 2022 World Cup final, did away with Hansi Flick, the manager. Even club football. Mauricio Pochettino was sent packing after Chelsea's disappointing Premier League season. For Stimac to stick on all these years was rather commendable. But let's also face it, Indian football did see some of its best moments while he was at the helm. India had a tremendous year, winning 3 international trophies in 2023. They had managed to break into the top 100 and they had qualified for the Asia Cup for a second consecutive year. Indian football was on the rise and expectations were mounting. Everything looking good. And that's when things went south, and very quickly. India were first knocked out of the AFC Asia Cup after losing to Uzbekistan and Syria. What followed was far worse. They first drew against Afghanistan and then lost to the same opponent. This was the World Cup qualifiers. While AFC Asia Cup was a tougher competition, losing to lesser-ranked Afghanistan triggered fans. The officials were not happy either. Stimac, who was once a hero, was not a favourite anymore. Maybe it was the promises he made, or maybe the non-admission that something was amiss. Whatever it was, he had upset the apple cart by then. Talks of his salary started doing the rounds. Stimac was reportedly earning about $30,000 a month, and AIFF weren't too amused with what they were getting in return. The draw against Kuwait and the loss to Qatar, the final nail in the coffin. And reports say that Stimac will be given only 3 months' salary as severance, which accounts to $90,000, whereas his contract is up to 2026. And taking that into account, AIFF is bound to pay him around $720,000. But the bigger picture, Stimac sacked, Captain Sunil Chhetri retired. Things look bleak from the time Stimac very confidently told us this.
Sunil, as a captain, Sandesh and Gurpreet are treated in a way differently because all these boys, you know, they are coming from different cultures. You know, even some of them, they don't understand each other if they don't speak English amongst them. So different cultures, different mentalities, different characters. And I need my captains to help me to make sure that the rest of the boys understand perfectly what I am insisting on. So they are my right hands. They are the boys who are presenting my words, you know, to the team and explaining in detail what needs to be done and how to execute our plans.
His right hand's not there anymore. There's one, of course, remaining, but he himself doesn't exist in the scheme of things, does Stimac. Gurpreet now helms the affairs as the Indian captain, and he has a tough task ahead of him. Whatever success was achieved in the past 5 years doesn't matter now. The team has to start from square one, and with India out of the World Cup qualifiers, the international calendar is pretty much done. The focus will now shift to domestic football, so the chances for the entire team to work as a unit will be rare. Apart from international breaks, the players will be with their clubs, so it would leave a void for the Indian team to build on something new here on. And with international coaches failing for India, will the management opt for an Indian hand? Now, if so, they might look at someone like Mahesh Gowli, at least temporarily. He's been second in command since 2022, knows the squad well, and his role as India under-20 head coach will make him bring in more youngsters into the fray. Whatever the decision AIFF finally takes, it has to be done with an eye to the future and a strong vision in place to carry them forward from this point on. Time for last serve. Boston Celtics beat Dallas Mavericks 4-1 to win the NBA Finals. The city of Boston came to a standstill as Celtic fans celebrated their 18th NBA title. There were crazy scenes with fans even ending up climbing traffic lights. Take a look. The one thing that just about unites everyone there. That does it here on Firstpost. I'll see you again tomorrow. Till then, take care.